You found there were a couple other factors that may have played a role as well in children deciding not to handle the guns that they found. What were some of those?
Yeah, so some of the risk factors in the study were being male. So we found that boys tended to behave more recklessly around the guns than other genders. We also found that watching more age-inappropriate movies on a general basis was a risk factor. So we had kids rate the 3 movies they watched the most often, and we scored these as to whether they were PG-13 or R-rated as age-inappropriate, because that is above the age range of 8 to 12-year-olds. And so if children watched more age-inappropriate movies, they were also more likely to behave more recklessly around the guns.
Because perhaps they're watching movies that show people using firearms irresponsibly or what have you.
Yeah, so we know that in these movies there is more violence, there are more guns than in younger age range movies. And so that is one of the predictions that we also made.
Okay.
And we also found that when parents reported that their children were more interested in guns, that was also a risk factor for more reckless behavior around guns.
Mm-hmm. But also interestingly, you found that parents who own firearms, that their children were more likely to not touch the guns, right?
Yes, we did find that prior research has reported that when parents own guns, they're more likely to talk to their kids about gun safety. Mm-hmm. And so assuming that gun owners do actually talk to their kids, this relates to the fact that parents with guns or children in households with guns are more likely to know more about gun safety.
Okay. And you saw that effect in this study as well?
Yes, we did.
And same for if they'd had prior firearms safety training of some sort?
Yes. So if kids had previously taken a firearm safety course or watched a firearm safety video, they were also less likely to behave recklessly around the guns. And a third and final of the protective factors was having negative attitudes towards guns. And so if children said that they didn't think guns were cool or they didn't want people in their neighborhoods to have guns because they didn't like it, they were also less likely to behave recklessly.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, a lot of that sort of follows, right? If you, hopefully, if they've had firearm safety training, they're less likely to use a gun irresponsibly if they come across it. And hopefully if their parents own guns, they're teaching them not to do that. And perhaps that's having an effect. It sounds to some degree like maybe some of the focus should be on trying to help parents who don't have firearms of their own, because, the Associated Press found, I believe, is 46% of Americans report having a gun in their home. So even if you don't have a gun in your home, your children's friends, their homes may have guns. And so it's, one of the takeaways to me, at least, sounds like for parents who don't own firearms, that perhaps they should still consider getting their children some sort of gun safety training, whether it's this video or some other form of gun safety training.
Yeah. So one of the things that we know is that only 40% of people that have guns actually have them secured. And so if you have a child that you haven't talked to about gun safety because you don't have guns or you're not wanting them to be exposed to it, so you're not talking about it, you're trying to prevent it, you're trying to avoid that uncomfortable conversation with your child, and they go over to a friend or someone from school and you don't know as a parent what is in those parents' homes, and then your child might come across a firearm in that house and pick it up, and that is out of the parent's control. And so if you had talked to your child about gun safety, that could prevent them from picking up the gun and maybe make it more likely that they come and tell you, as the police officer in our video is encouraging. But if there's no education on gun safety, the child might pick it up because children are naturally very curious.
Right. And you also talked about, scripting in the study as well, this idea that what children see performed is something that they might repeat, I guess, essentially sort of monkey see, monkey do sort of thing here. And so I guess that was part of the reason that maybe you showed them these movies that had violent aspects to them. And then also might be one of the reasons why having the police officer demonstrate gun safety to them or give them a script of what they should do if they find a gun helped, right?
Yes. So we were in our study in a way testing whether the police officer would actually compete with the National Treasure and these action movies that kids are often watching. And so we know that children are very often exposed to media, that children are sitting on their iPads or in front of the TV a lot of the time. And we know that they're often then exposed to violent media because there has been an increase in violent media. And we also know from research and from theories that children are likely to imitate the behavior of the role models that they have. And so movie characters often become role models for children. And so we're trying to counterbalance or counteract that with having a police officer that might serve as a different role model of safe behavior instead of unsafe behavior.
Right. And you found that it did in fact work.
Yes, we did.